It's the Fantasy Finish Line podcast, and tonight is Wednesday, October 26th, 2022. It's week 8, and we're going to do the Pepsi Player Challenge.
I didn't realize you named it the Pepsi Player Challenge.
Pepsi/player. Well, it was called the Pepsi Challenge long ago.
Or the Coca Cola Challenge, or the Cola Challenge, or the Blindfold Challenge.
I like the Blindfold Challenge. I just don't want to wear a blindfold.
This guy just likes Pepsi.
It's true.
Yeah, and it's my posit that he's not going to be able to pick the Pepsi.
Okay, well, Dave, what we're going to do tonight, everyone, is a little blind testing from fantasy players and from some colas. Did you have any surprise drinks to bust out later in the show?
Testing. No, I don't think so. I mean, maybe afterwards we will. But the things I saw at the store, like the Dream World Coca Cola, etc.,
sure,
are such not regular colas that it wouldn't really align.
Well, I thought maybe you'd try like a whiskey or something like that.
Yeah, I'm always down to test.
Can you tell which is the whiskey and which is the cola?
I mean, I think there was a wedding I went to a long time ago where I had to switch to non-alcoholic beer at some point. But
I think someone had to switch you to non-alcoholic beer is what you mean.
But in general, I think you should always know if your Coke has a little bit of whiskey in it.
Correct. You should always be able to tell.
Yeah.
I mean, any drink that doesn't taste like alcohol is suspicious.
But you can't see the viewers at home or the listeners at home.
Give them a peek.
For those of you listening on YouTube or watching, we have behind the little sign that's in front of our table 6 large sort of Dixie-ish cups for those born or raised in the 90s. Remember those bathroom dispensers where they just stick them on the wall and then you pull one down?
Yeah.
So these are like larger versions of that, and each one has in it a different kind of cola. We have tonight Coca Cola, Pepsi, and RC. And the idea is to see, these were mixed up by my fiance who is upstairs. And so we don't know what's in them, but on the bottom of the glasses is a number, and we'll get a key afterwards.
Okay.
So maybe we can bet on that, Jay.
Maybe we can guess which is right. We're also going to kind of do that a little bit with players. So I did a little bit of that in my column this week, and it won't be players we used, I hope, because maybe you looked and saw who I talked about in the column. But what I like, a little trope I've always liked in like sports talk radio and stuff is presenting 2 similar stat lines and being like, would you rather have this guy or that guy? And you always want to get led towards the nicer stats, and it's always the worst player.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe we didn't do that necessarily this time. I'm not sure. And because we usually share our notes for our show, this time we didn't. And so I don't really know how he, speaking about Jason, put this together. And he doesn't really know how I did. But I think they'll be similar at least.
I think as long as we did, it'd be crazy if we overlapped the same players. We did not check on that.
Well, I took different positions, so that's not.
You just went ahead and did a different position. Okay. Yeah, having a position isn't a spoiler. So, anyways, I do write a column every Monday called "Statistically Insignificant." I try to write it on Mondays. I have failed once or twice this year.
Monday/Tuesday.
Monday evening. It's a good little thing to sit down and read while you're watching Monday Night Football. So. We'll start out with 14.25 points per game. So that stat would sound great if you're talking about a running back or a wide receiver, but it's disappointing when you talk about a quarterback. If I told you that a quarterback who had an ADP of 9 is currently trailing the guy who had an ADP of 27, you'd be disappointed. And by disappointed, I mean you'd be disappointed if you were the one who drafted that quarterback thinking that you were really sneaky getting a good value on the 2-time MVP. So that gives it away.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback 21 on the season now. He failed to make his stat line look at all distinct from Taylor Heineke. Rodgers had 194 yards and 2 touchdowns. Heineke had 204 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, we should call him DJ Failed.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
Well, the Packers, I mean, I'll let you continue, right?
Yeah.
The Packers still have a chance to sort of have some kind of resurgence. I think a lot of people think they're going to trade for or acquire in some way another receiver. And they've had a lot of other problems, too.
They really need one.
This offensive line and play calling hasn't been terrific. But I agree with you. Yeah, it's been a fall from grace for Aaron Rodgers, and you can see the frustration in his eyes. At least he's not yelling at his offensive line after missing practice all week, though. You can be worse than Aaron Rodgers.
I thought about picking on Tom Brady.
You could be Tom Brady.
But I thought that would be a little too obvious. So, This season, Rodgers hasn't even reached 18 points in a single game. He has not gotten to 300 passing yards. He has not thrown for 3 touchdowns in a single game. The drop-off at quarterback is quite precipitous. There is a large sort of block at the top, and it happened this week, too. There was, 3 guys who had, 27 or more points, and then the 5th highest player only had, 19.
Yeah.
I talk about that in my column as well. Check out our website, drinkfive.com, in order to check out all the stuff we put up every week. But anyways, after Joe Burrow, who had an ADP of 7, you have to go all the way to Trevor Lawrence, whose ADP was 18, to find a guy who scored in the top 10 of quarterbacks through 7 weeks. Because other guys who are in there are like Geno Smith, who was not even drafted in the top 20, I don't think. So there really is a small group at the top of quarterbacks this year that are really good, and then there's none of that meaty middle that we're used to. Remember how every year you were always not you specifically, but you could always stream a quarterback because there was 15 guys.
I remember.
Yeah, that's not happening this year. There's a mediocre group, and it includes guys like Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady.
Surprise, surprise. After playing fantasy football for many years, and I don't even know exactly how long we've been playing, I believe for me in particular, probably maybe 13 or 14 years now, something like that.
It's probably pushing 15, I bet.
Certainly could be. And
we're 2007.
And we're not veterans of the sport. We just kind of came in sort of in the beginning, in the middle-ish.
Right as it was getting popular.
But it's certainly a surprise to no one that the meta changes, right? This is kind of like in video gaming too. I don't know if you play any of these kinds of games, but in Hearthstone or in first-person shooters, etc., when you have classes, which are similar to positions in a football game, oftentimes someone will figure out in those games that such and such combination really works well. And then everyone will copy them, and then the meta of that game changes to that. And then the other things that were popular before have fallen behind because everyone knows how to deal with them. For a long time in the modern era, it was the quarterback who was always the best. Perhaps that's changing slightly in the NFL.
Yeah, or at least from a fantasy perspective.
Because it's not like the...
but I guess it would be the NFL changing first.
Yeah, it's not like the players from college are getting worse. That's not true at all. It's the same kind
We're still seeing plenty of good people come in the league.
Yeah, so you have to think, are they shifting back to more of a heavy running game? Or maybe it's a 2 tight end set, or passing the ball around more, or not being as focused on long pass plays. And because of that, whatever reason it is, and we'll hopefully have more information, right, to analyze that later in the season. What you said is 100% true. The quarterbacks this year are just falling off a cliff, similar to what tight ends would normally do, or starting running backs on a team.
All right.
Makes it tough for Superflex.
I agree, yeah. I mean, Superflex was always fun because it felt like there was always so many more points because you got to throw another quarterback in there. But it makes it even more interesting, I think, if all of a sudden there is the possibility that you would legitimately want to start a wide receiver or a running back over your second quarterback.
Sure, I have a league where you can start one quarterback and there's 2 super flex positions. This past week I would have won the game if I had put in Kenneth Walker instead of Matt Ryan, but it's too hard. It's too hard for me to be let's take out the quarterback to put in a rookie running back.
It's a very entrenched and for now seemingly obvious choice. Yeah,
but maybe it won't continue to be so.
I mean, I wouldn't start Matt Ryan this week.
No, maybe Sam Erlinger, but I don't think he'll be any better than Matt Ryan. We'll see.
Probably not. So one of these defenses and special teams had 22 points. So if you had a choice to pick between them, and you could know a few of these facts ahead of time.
Well, did you just decide
to
do the same theme on the show in your article?
No, only for 2 of the things. So I thought I'd throw those out as a way for us to get ready for it.
Well, I picked all defense and kicker, so.
Okay. Well, then you didn't read my article.
No, I didn't. But yeah, give me the defenses. Let me see if I can pick it, because I didn't read your article yet.
Okay, so would you want to have the team that goes up against one of the top offenses in the league, or the team that is going to have 2 pick sixes? And that's kind of a giveaway.
Yes, the 2 pick sixes.
Right. Of course, you'd want that.
Was it Kansas City?
No, the Cardinals on Thursday night had 2 pick sixes in a row.
Yeah, that's
but
right.
the Cowboys scored 22 points. They had 5 sacks and 5 turnovers. And the Cardinals only had 18 points because they had 2 pick sixes and 1 other interception, and that was it. Mm-hmm. And so, like, even with 2, pick sixes, they couldn't even get to 20 points.
I would take either of those.
Sure. Absolutely. They're both very good performances.
Instead, I probably had the Jaguars or something.
So the 22 points is actually the second best performance by a DST all season. There are 2 teams who are tied at 26, 2 teams who are tied at 22. So it's the second highest point total. I suppose it's not the second best performance.
Gotcha.
Anyways, the Cowboys have 29 sacks. They're leading the league in fantasy points. But the Bills did have a bye week last week. They were previously leading.
Yeah, they couldn't score any points.
Yeah. But sometimes on defense, that's good. You don't want to give them up either. So anyways, make sure you check out my column, all the other stuff that we put up there. Dave's rankings are up there right now for week 8. How you doing on the as an expert this year so far?
And that's
I haven't checked in the last couple weeks.
Statistically insignificant is the name of that column. If you didn't already say it, I don't recall. And let's do a shot here. I'm number 14 overall now. I've just improved my position.
Oh, fuck yeah.
I'm trying to break into the top 10, but it's
I didn't know it ahead of time, so I was kind of throwing you.
It's very hard. Cheers.
Out there.
Cheers to those folks that are watching here at our home studio.
Peanut gallery.
To
the bringer of water and ice cream.
But yeah, number 14 overall, and rankings is a hard game, and one that I seem to be getting a little better at. If I look over the past couple of years, I've generally been ranked out of 200 experts on fantasypros.com. David Biggs is what the rankings are under, and generally somewhere between like 30 and 50. So I've done pretty well, but now I'm doing better than I've done in the past. Now that said, I could easily, fuck up these rankings over the next several weeks and fall back down, and it puts a lot of pressure on me when I'm doing them.
David Biggs, drinkfive
on Tuesday,
14.
Because generally I'm doing them Tuesday afternoon and evening.
Look at Nick Spencer at 16.
But I really enjoy it, and again, I would never suggest that you do exactly as I am prognosticating. Only that it's a good guideline for you to...
Prognosticating? Is that what happens on Game of Thrones?
No. I don't know what happens on Game of Thrones. I black out every time I watch that show. It's like I'm faced with trauma and blood and dragons. So, yeah, that's a scary experience.
Just let it wash over you.
There's a lot of things. I like VR a lot. There's a lot of things that I would love to watch in VR, but I don't think Game of Thrones is one of those things. So I'd be like, No, horror movies and like Game of Thrones, I'm just going to watch on a flat screen. Yeah, so the dragon doesn't look like it's coming at me, and no spoilers.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
It's coming for someone.
Cheers.
Yes, I already. Cheers.
Mm-hmm. So I think before we have too much more alcohol or break into the other sort of blindfold challenge, we should probably get into this before these sodas get flat.
So, okay, that's a good idea. So... we can start out with number 1. Shall we try it and see how it goes?
Yeah, and so these are going to be 1, 2, 3 from the outside in, right?
Yep.
And we're gonna try them at the same time. I don't necessarily suggest that we do a lot of comparing, although I might try to lead you down the wrong path. You see if like the
I haven't had any of these in like a couple days.
Like the coloring or the smell of it makes a difference, but it's going to be hard to gauge. I think I was going to say jage. I don't know what that is.
Okay, so I smelled it and I thought it was one thing, and I tasted it, and I feel like it reinforces.
It reinforces.
I'm going to write down what I think they are.
Yeah, me too. We can compare.
Okay.
So I've had all these before at some point. They're RC, Coca Cola, and Pepsi. No diets, but all of the regular original mixtures. And I think it'll be interesting because so many people that you watch on YouTube or that have done this
Are you going to drink
challenge.
the whole thing right now? Or are you going to save a little bit in case you want to go back and check?
I've got a little bit, but
Okay.
I gotta make sure I know where they are.
Okay, that's a 1. I sort of want to say something, but I want to remind the peanut gallery to not react in any way, shape, or form
That's
when they
true.
hear
That's true.
what we say they are. What did you think the first one was?
So on to 2.
Or do you want to wait until we're done trying them all?
I'm not sure we should influence each other or not. Do you want to?
That's what I'm thinking. Is maybe it influences each other.
Do you want to bet on these? Is this what we're doing?
Want to bet? Okay, I mean, come up with a bet.
Okay.
We've brought this up like 3 times now. Present the bet. Oh,
He said, "Oh,
God damn, they taste so close.
He's like, and that's
They're
about
so similar.
and that's about the same. It's also a cola. These are
We've learned how to like taste beers and wine, so of course we're gonna act the same when we just try some colas.
these are hard.
Oh yeah. So if this last one is what I have left, and I think it is, like when I try it, I think it is what I have left.
Yeah,
then I'm gonna be very happy
because you're done.
because then I'll be like, all right, I think I got this. But if I think it's one of the first 2, then I'm gonna be so screwed. Thank you. Cheers on this last one. Did you think of a bet? How do you want to do this? Like if someone gets
them all right.
Okay, then the other person has to buy beers next week.
Yeah,
we do that a lot.
That sounds fine. Yeah. Not sure.
Not sure.
That's you know what movie that's from. All right, not sure.
It's Idiocracy.
That's difficult. Plus, we've been drinking other beverages tonight, and wow.
So it's Coke. I mean, I'm not saying in order, but Coke, Pepsi, and RC. Right?
Yeah, that's correct.
And we, like, when's the last time you had RC?
Probably like 5 years ago.
Okay, I did have lunch at a place with RC last week when after we had decided we were doing this, and I didn't want to try any RC because I knew it would totally fuck me up. I wanted it to just be like a completely foreign experience compared to something that I knew well.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, I'm second guessing myself now.
Well, the problem with, as you know from whiskey tasting, from beer tasting, from wine tasting, is if you go back and forth between all of them a bunch now, you're just going to mix everything up because there's no palate cleansing.
Okay, I'm fairly certain on number 2, but 1 and 3 I feel like could be flipped.
Yeah, so I have my list, I think, and let me go one more time in here.
See, that's got the aftertaste that I associate with a certain beverage.
With Pepsi?
No, not Pepsi. Oh. No, I know which one's Pepsi.
Do
I'm
you?
almost certain.
Oh, wow.
I feel like I know because after trying all 3 of them again, I still think it's the same one. But yeah, I mean, do I drink some wine to cleanse my palate? Wine is really close to this, actually.
Well, a lot of people mix red wine and soda and cola together.
Do a lot of people do that?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess there's just a lot of people.
Well, from my experience in bars, a lot of 40 to 60-year-old women have red wine and cola with a little ice in it, right? But I guess those are bad bars. I don't go to them anymore.
Those were fun bars.
No, but it's a drink, seriously. But maybe it's a Midwestern dive bar drink. That makes more sense. So I have my list, but I really am totally unsure because they all taste like cola. And they're all very close. There's just one that seems a little sweeter to me, and one that seems a little foreign to me as far as maybe I haven't had that taste in a little while, which I'm going to put to RC. So we'll see.
Okay, so have you tried all of yours?
Yeah, they're all gone now, actually.
Okay, I have a little bit left.
Have you written down all of your answers?
I've written down my answers, and I switched my 1 and 3 from my original guess.
Okay.
Second guessing yourself.
Maybe you can third guess yourself. That'll be a record.
So maybe what we can do is you
Okay.
guys can just, I'll call out, I'll say a
We'll
number,
say what they
you guys
are.
tell me
We'll say what they are, but then please just pass us the what the answers are, so we can announce them to the people at home.
Well, that or you have to shout so that they can hear you on the broadcast. So we can just start at the beginning. So
Okay.
for number one, I have Coke. What do you have?
I had Coke originally, and I switched to RC.
You switched to RC.
Okay.
What's the answer?
What's number one?
The answer is RC.
Oh, Jason. Good job there.
Okay, number two is got to be Pepsi.
Well, I can't get it right now because I chose number 2 as RC.
Oh no!
What is number
was
two?
Pepsi.
And number three is Coke.
You got them all right.
Bam!
Well, this guy drinks soda, I'll tell you what.
I do drink soda. It's a thing.
Well, good job. So I guess I'll be bringing some beer to the next show, and you did a really excellent job.
I was sure of number two when I had the Pepsi because Pepsi's my drink. The first one tasted like Coke, so I would say RC and Coke are probably pretty similar.
That's why I split them up.
But when I had, they should be objectively random. But when I had the last one, I was like, oh, that reminds me of the aftertaste from Coke. Not like a bad aftertaste, just a thing. But we're gonna test the tester after the show and find out how well she can identify them.
All right. Well, good job, Jason. That's a round of applause, and
Thank you.
definitely a very good soda taster. I was not so good. However, in my defense, I don't drink a lot of full flavored sodas. But I thought that the sweetest one was the third one. That's why I put Pepsi, because I find that to be a sweet drink.
Pepsi has a bit of like a citrusy flavor to it. I think that's what usually people find distinct.
Anyway, great job, and we'll see if you can take any of those soda tasting skills and put them into player guessing skills here in the next segment.
Okay. Do we want to have a little drink first?
Sure, I can always do that.
Have you opened any of these beers yet?
To Old Scout.
The Old Scout. You enjoy that one on your own today.
You know, I'm finishing the Sierra Nevada Big Little Thing, which is an Imperial IPA, and then I'll join you with that beer, which seems like a wonderful Pipeworks beer. Herd of Mammoths?
Herd of Mammoth Unicorns.
Oh my gosh.
It's a hazy Imperial IPA with Idaho 7, Citra, Simcoe, Azaka, Cryo Amarillo, and Cryo Mosaic.
I'm not sure what Azaka is.
Neither do I. I'm not sure what most of that stuff
It's
is.
probably unicorn
I
horn.
assume they're hops. I need to like rinse this cup out.
Nah.
Better one little sip is tainted with the wine than the whole beer.
There you go.
Oh, it's hazy. It's so hazy.
And for any longtime listeners, the music that we play during the show is from me, all original music, which I am starting up a Spotify channel for and writing some new music here up in the winter, because that's a good time to be practicing hobbies that don't involve going outside unless you're skiing.
I agree.
There's a lot of things. You agree, though, so I appreciate that.
I mean, I don't do that hobby. It's not one of my hobbies. My hobby is listening to the music that you write. Like, that's among my hobbies.
Hey, music
It's
listening
a part of my hobby.
is a massive hobby. So, yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.
And why don't we start off and we can go back and forth or whatever.
Yeah, do you want to lead us off here?
Okay. Again, I'm not sure that we're going to have the exact same kind of outline for these because
I'm certain we won't.
we kind of wanted to be in the dark a little bit. So what I did is that I chose a player A and player B for a position.
And I promise not to like Google the stats while you're telling me.
Yeah, you don't be looking that up. He said like this player had 315 yards. He's like, who is it? Who is it? As
No.
Seattle.
I do like look at all the stats every week, so it's possible that you like bump on one that I already know. But
All right. We have to give you a new title now as the all-knowing
taster?
soda taster.
okay,
Well, most people apparently, if they like Pepsi, choose Coke, and vice versa. And there's something about those that that when you don't actually have it in front of you, is sort of a similarity.
I'm not. I don't know enough about what I
I'm
just
glad
did
I'm glad you
to
swapped
claim that I actually know what I'm
You're,
doing.
you're like I could have just put in filled in C on all the answers.
I could have just guessed Pepsi for all three of them and gotten one of them right.
Better than me. 0% success
I'm just
rate.
gaming this to get free beer.
Yeah, well, nice job again. And I think maybe we should salute you with some sort of a prize that I will determine and give to you next podcast.
Oh, that's fantastic. Is it going to be super spicy chocolate?
We don't know.
I'm just really glad that none of those like colas secretly were spicy as hell.
That our listener Glenn didn't like
I'm
send
going to
us.
be able to talk the entire time and not cry.
Didn't send us a ghost pepper
Very
cola
happy.
in the mail
Oh
for
my
us to
God.
try. Shout out to Glenn for last week. If you want to take a quick listen or watch on the YouTube channel, search for drinkfive week 7, and you'll get the Raging Reaper chocolate bar that Glenn sent us, and that was extremely hot.
You don't want the Raging Reaper, trust me.
Anyway, so we have wide receivers in this blindfolded challenge.
Got it.
Player A and player B, and I want you to tell me if you have any idea who either of these players are, and then I have some hints. If you're unable to successfully guess, which you probably won't be from the first stab,
Okay.
And I have some hints that should
Progressively
make it easier.
See, I did that too, so I think that we'll be pretty close.
Okay, so player A has had 44 targets so far this year, 26 receptions.
And these are both wide receivers.
Yeah, 315 yards, 12.1 yards per reception. 31 was his longest catch.
Okay.
2 touchdowns so far in the year with a total of 58.5 fantasy points. And so here's a little summary basically of this player, and yes, please tell me which one you'd rather have on your team. So this guy, big finishes early, has been trending down after week 3, and last week he was held to only 1 reception. He's averaging just 2.5 receptions over the last 4 games. The question is his quarterback just ignoring him, or could this maybe an effect of the offensive scheme?
Okay.
Player B has had 40 targets, 26 receptions, same amount of receptions, 338 yards, just a little bit more than player A.
Okay.
13.0 yards per reception, just a little bit more than player A. 36 was his longest catch, just a little bit more than player A. 1 touchdown, whereas player A has had 2. 52.9 fantasy points, which is really only a difference of 6. And his summary of how he's been doing, his usage level has been trending up over the course of the season. He's now averaging over 5 receptions and almost 11 points per game over the last 4 games. It's possible that he could finish as the WR1 on his team by the end of the season. So based on those 2 guys, player B has less fantasy points but is trending up over the past 4 weeks, whereas player A has more fantasy points and had big games early but has been trending down.
Okay.
So which player would you rather have?
So
Just based on the stats.
I always want touchdowns. I kind of feel like I'd want player A.
Okay, so even though he's trending down, he scored more touchdowns.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is player B Josh Reynolds?
No.
Okay.
Well, there you go.
I don't have a guess for player A.
So hints. 1, both receivers were only able to legally drink alcohol starting earlier this year.
Oh. Oh, that's fun.
Is that any more helpful?
Okay, is player A... Oh, what the hell is his name? I'm not going to Google stats. I just need to look up the name.
No.
Okay, is he the rookie wide receiver on Washington?
No.
Okay.
All right. Player A was a dual D1 athlete playing both basketball and football for USC, and he won the 2021 Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Year.
USC.
Player B loves to block and has some highlight level flattening of players so far this year. Any idea from those?
Is player B Drake London?
No.
Is player A...
But you're getting closer.
Sure, I wish I had the entire rookie wide receiver class available in my brain, because I assume it's a rookie based on
Well,
that.
if you get to the third
It doesn't
hint,
have to be.
If you get to the third hint, you will get it. No worries.
Okay, give me the third hint.
Player A is on the Falcons. Player B is on the Steelers.
Player B is George Pickens.
Right.
Player A is Drake London?
That's correct. Yeah. So they're pretty close. Now, player A, Drake London, is WR35 on the year, but he's been doing really horribly over the last 4 weeks. Player B is WR43 on the year, but he didn't have very much usage at all, and now has been doing really well over the last 4 weeks.
Okay, and they both played the whole season.
They both played the whole season.
Yeah, that's what I meant to ask you, that to be like, did you give me a per game sort of statistic to try to weed out like?
I didn't pick
'cause if
anybody
one of them was
that was like injured for half a season or
Gotcha,
anything. Yeah.
gotcha. Well, that's fun. I think that what I did is pretty similar.
Okay.
Do you want to talk about any of those players a little bit?
I can give sort of a prognostication of how I expect for those players to be.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
Sean Foss in the chat room said, after you guessed London, he said you guessed London for the wrong one. So I'm sure if he didn't know it already, since Sean is a big contributor to drinkfive.com, and he's a guy who amazingly, and hopefully he comes on the podcast later this year, can literally tell us any college that the players went to. He probably knew it before
As
then.
soon as you said that he went to USC, I was like, Sean is gonna be screaming this.
Well, he would have known that before then. Even if I said
so.
a D1 athlete that played both football and basketball,
yeah.
he would have been like, "Yep, it's London."
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure. So if I look at my current rankings going on week 8, I currently have George Pickens as the WR30 and London as the WR37. Now, I think personally that the trajectory.
So what you're saying is you prefer player B.
Right now,
I think I would still rather have London.
well, that's not really working out. Like, Mariota is not giving the ball to London. The offensive scheme is running a lot. It's not working out for Pitts and London on Atlanta.
I feel like it's not working out that much better for the Steelers, but for Pickens, it is like an upward trend. I do agree.
I'm only talking about like the opportunities for the players.
Right.
Like, neither team is winning a lot of games. But what it's about is do those players have the opportunities? And right now, the targets and the receptions and the player who's catching those passes and turning them into points is George Pickens. So for the foreseeable future, I still think that George Pickens has kind of a breakout trajectory, to the point where, as I mentioned, he may even finish above Deontay Johnson, because as long as Kenny Pickett is the quarterback there, he seems to favor Pickens in those kinds of like jump ball plays, a really physical player. And if you didn't already know this from my previous hint, Pickens is amazing at just being extremely physical and literally pushing people over, just flattening them.
That's
at the line of
awesome.
scrimmage.
I think
It's
the
fun
only
to watch.
Steelers game I've watched any significant amount of was the one on Sunday night.
Okay.
Yeah.
But he'll start
And
off.
that was interrupted by House of the Dragon.
He'll start off on the line of scrimmage and just mow over someone, which is pretty awesome.
That's fantastic. I got to look for that.
It might mean that he doesn't have a lot of longevity. We'll see, but it's really fun to watch.
I mean, a Steelers wide receiver that knows how to block is a fun thing indeed.
Yeah, Sean just said too, the Falcons just threw 13 times in a game and they lost by 3 scores. So like they're not trying really, I feel like, at this point.
They want to get the number 1 pick.
Well, if that's the case, then you don't want Drake London.
Not now. Not now.
But why don't you go ahead and I'll see if I can guess.
Okay, so let's have a look at quarterbacks who run the ball. It's always been the key to the top tier of fantasy quarterbacks. So who would you rather have, the quarterback with the second most carries, almost 10 per game, and the second most rushing yards, over 50 per game? Or would you rather have the quarterback that rushes the ball only about 8 times per game and is averaging only 35 yards per game? So I'm not going to give you all their stats because that would be a dead giveaway.
Well, I think clearly I would rather have the player with more opportunities, like I just said, and that's probably the one that is not doing as well, right?
I mean, that's how these things work.
Yeah.
Of course, this feels like a trap, right?
But if you had it on paper, I would want the guy who is rushing more.
Okay.
100%.
Do you have any guesses at the moment? You don't really have to. I haven't given you a clue officially yet. So both quarterbacks are known to scramble.
Yeah, sure. So I would
Naturally.
I would probably say Kyler Murray and
Kyler Murray is not one of the quarterbacks.
okay, fair. Well, then
Okay.
give me another hint.
So both quarterbacks play in a North Division.
A North Division.
A North Division. So it's only 8 guys now. Oh, I'm sorry. That's wrong.
Well, okay.
That's a bad clue.
That's a bad clue.
That's a bad clue.
One of them plays in a North Division.
One of them plays in the North Division. The other one plays in the North, but it's not in the North Division. Let's go on to the next clue.
One of them is Lamar Jackson, probably.
No. He does play in a North Division.
He does, yes.
Yes. One of them is not Lamar
Give me
Jackson.
the final clue.
He has the most rushing attempts. One of them has 103 passing attempts more than the other one.
103.
103.
Geno Smith.
No. One is the QB1, and the other is the QB16.
Okay, so Josh Allen.
Josh Allen is the QB1.
And
he doesn't play in a North Division.
Yeah, well, that was not a helpful
My
one.
mistake. Well, Buffalo is pretty far north.
You're right that it's interesting. I guess he must not be rushing very many times, just very efficiently. I guess, right?
Not as much as he used to, but yeah he's throwing the ball so well that he doesn't need to as much. But he is known as a guy who'll run the ball.
And the other fellow is probably Jalen Hurts.
No.
Who is it?
Josh Fields.
Josh Fields. Justin Fields?
Justin Fields. I have it written in front of me. It's the Josh Allen thing. It's
I was
in
like,
my head.
Who is this QB16? I've never heard of him. Josh
I
Fields.
Googled Josh Fields, and it was like, do you mean Josh Fields from baseball?
Basketball?
No, he's a baseball player, isn't he?
Well, that's the wrong sport to ask me about.
Yeah, he's a baseball player.
Anyway, okay, so Josh Allen clearly doing better, but the guy who is rushing less often, whereas the other player, Justin Fields, obviously not throwing hardly any passes,
Right.
And rushing more, but not doing as well.
Exactly. And, when you look at the top rusher, it's Lamar Jackson. He's doing great in fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not as if, you would say, well, they're rushing too much. But, yeah. So Josh Allen not running the ball as much, still leading the league in fantasy points. The Bills look like one of the best teams in the league. There's nothing to say about him, really. He's really, really good. The Bills are really, really good. But Justin Fields has only 53% of the passing yards that Josh Allen has. If you take away Justin Fields' rushing stats, he's the QB 30 on the season. So this season, he's completing a lower percentage of passes, throwing more interceptions, at a higher rate, and is leading the league in sacks. So compared to last year, he is actually playing worse, even though it looks like he's doing a little better. Now, this all does include Monday night's game, where he did play better, and the Bears won. They put up 33 points against the Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
So we're both 1 for 1. Although we really had to walk each other into it. So why don't you present me with your next scenario?
No, I didn't get that correctly.
You got Josh Allen.
It's just one of them. You mean 1 for 2?
1 for 2 on the things.
We don't have a scoreboard set up properly for this.
No, this one isn't a bet.
Again, Sean got it in the chat room, so make sure you close the chat room because he's going to tell you before you know probably. But I've got a tight end here, and we're talking about 2 different tight ends, player A and player B. Player A has had 55 targets so far, 37 receptions on those for 320 yards. Not very many yards per reception, only 8.6. And 2 touchdowns for 66.5 fantasy points. He just played his worst game of the season. Previously, finished every game within the top 15 tight ends. But this game was horrible.
Okay.
Other target hogs on the team could definitely cut into the production he was previously getting used to.
Okay.
Player B, 39 targets, 23 receptions, and 315 yards. So similar, he's only played 6 games to the other players, 7, I believe.
Okay.
But he has much more yards per reception, 13.7 as opposed to 8.6. His longest catch on the year was for 81 yards, which was rather impressive.
Oh, yeah.
62.2 fantasy points total. Now, this guy averages almost 4 receptions a game, but he suffers from these wide swings of fate, going from the top scoring tight end one week to the 47th the next and back to the 17th, averaging more than 10 points per game, however. So you've got a guy who has almost finished every game within the top 15 in scoring, and a guy who's been the number 1 and then the number 47 on subsequent weeks.
You said an 81-yard reception?
Yeah, correct. It's not Taysom Hill because he hasn't received that.
I know. I wanted to say Taysom Hill because of the jumping up and down. But it's the 81. I remember that damn play. I can't remember who it was.
Well, let me give you a first hint. So player A has been in the league since 2013 and has been only on 2 teams over that span of time. The superhero power he would most like to have is mind reading. Player B, on the other hand...
I hope that's real.
It is. Player B, on the other hand, was drafted just a few years ago, but he's already on his 2nd quarterback. He's a huge Disney fan, and The Lion King is his favorite movie. Is that helpful?
Is player B...
Mind reader versus
Player B
Lion
is...
King.
Is on the Lions. I can't think of his name.
The Lions tight end. That's
The Lions
I'll accept the Lions tight end. That's T.J. Hawkinson from
Hawkinson.
Iowa. Yes, yeah.
Yes.
So
Player A is
he
Hawkinson.
had that really long catch, and he's been doing very well this year, but sort of up and down because he was the number 1 tight end, then the 47th and the 17th.
Right.
But he's been averaging more than 10 points a game, and has gotten a lot of fantasy value out of a couple games.
Sure.
Now, do you have any guesses for player A?
And that makes sense because he's had a bye week. Player A, can you give me one more clue for player A?
Both tight ends measure up at about 6'5", 250 pounds.
Okay.
He's like, that's not helpful. That's the standard size of tight
That's
end.
that's a tight end. That's what a tight end is.
Well,
Is player A
bigger guys, you know.
Is player A
I've got another one. Player A's first and last names are the
okay.
same number of characters.
Is it George Kittle?
No, those are not the same number, are they?
I didn't do the count. K-I-T-T-L-E. That's only 6.
No, maybe it is.
It is 6 and 6.
Yes, it is, but that's not correct.
Okay. But it's not
I mean, how many of those are there? Probably only like 2 or 3.
That's how tight ends work.
Yeah.
Travis Kelce?
Is that
It's
true
not
too?
Travis Kelce, but Travis and Kelce both have 5 letters.
I guess they're all the same amount of characters, except for Hawkinson.
TJ Hawkinson.
No, that's all I got.
But
for
maybe
clues.
what TJ stands for would work. No, it doesn't matter. We don't need to get into that.
Okay, so player A is the TE4. His first and last name are the same amount of characters. He was drafted in 2013, and he's only been on 2 teams since then. And his favorite, his ideal superhero power is mind reading.
A guy who's been around since 13. I mean, it's not great podcasting if I just sit here and my way through all of the tight ends.
Well, I can
in the
tell you.
league. Yeah, just tell me.
So that's Zach Ertz.
Oh.
Yeah, so he's doing really well, tight end 4.
I think I would have arrived at him at like number 30, so good thing you just told me.
And besides last game, has finished every game within the top 15 tight ends. So he's really been a good, solid tight end to have on the squad.
Okay.
And Arizona's only getting better right now with of course, Hopkins coming on. Even though they lost Hollywood Brown, Hopkins is going to give Kyler a good target to pepper. So the question that I brought up in my summary, and I'll go over this again real quickly, as far as like a prediction going forward, is that DeAndre Hopkins soaked up so many passes in the last game, and I watched the whole game. It was really fun to see them connect again finally after him being out for 6 games. But I worry that that happening in general is going to affect the amount of targets that Ertz was getting, especially because as soon as Hopkins came back, Ertz only ended up with 1 reception for 9 yards. I think that it will eventually even out. I think Murray was just so happy to get Hopkins back that the plan for the game was just Hopkins.
Hopkins. It's written on the board. Hopkins. You're going to throw it to Hopkins, now go play COD.
Yeah. He was like, well, the new COD came out. Like, I got to finish up this game. I got to finish it up.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there we go. Good job. Got Hawkinson. So you're still 2 for 4, 50%.
2 for 4. I'll take it.
And I'll do one
I'm 3
more
for 3
here.
with colas.
But I wasn't doing well with those northern quarterbacks.
Well, I admit to having a really bad incorrect clue. It was only half correct. Would you rather
switch on the next one here?
have a running back drafted in the top 5 or one drafted outside the top 10? Last season, the younger of these players averaged 15.5 points per game. The older one managed just 9.2. Both players have over 35% of their team's total offensive touches. That's including wide receivers. Both players have 60% of their team's rushing attempts. It's fair to say both are known as bell cow backs. So obviously you're going to want the guy drafted earlier, usually. But I'm leading you on.
Drafted earlier? Are they both drafted in the same year?
I meant like ADP in 2022 for fantasy.
Oh, I see. Yes, okay.
Yeah. So one of them was drafted in the top 5. The other one was drafted outside of the top 10. Mm-hmm. They're both bell cow backs. The younger one
Gotcha.
averaged 15.5 points per game last year.
Gotcha.
The older one averaged 9.2. Okay. But as I'm clearly leading you on, one of them has risen and one of them has fallen. So the younger player has not reached 12 points this year, and the elder player has dipped below 15 only once.
I probably know who that is.
Okay. Well, that was my first clue. You want to take a guess?
These are running backs, correct?
These are running backs.
So I will guess Najee Harris and Saquon Barkley.
Good job.
Yeah.
Nice job. So my other clues were...
Well, I've been paying attention to running backs really closely
Sure.
this year.
So the younger player is the RB23, and the elder player is the RB3.
Yeah. Yeah.
The younger player was drafted as the RB5, and Saquon Barkley was drafted as number 11. The elder player is on a team. The elder player isn't even the only player on his team that has a 100-yard rushing game.
I like how you keep calling
Daniel
him
Jones heads one.
the elder, like he's wearing like white.
I should have just done player A and player
like
B.
he's wearing underwear underneath of his regular clothes. That's a Mormon joke. I apologize.
And the younger player doesn't even have.
Thank you, Elder Barkley. Oh yes.
So yes, Saquon.
No offense to any folks out there that
I don't
happen
think
to be
Mormons are
Mormon.
allowed to play fantasy football.
They're not.
I don't think so. I
I think that's Lutherans, Jason.
Okay.
Let's stop waxing religious though. That's
not what people are here for.
That's a bad scene. Yeah.
So Barkley's had an outstanding season. He has a remarkably high floor.
Yes.
He has 46% of all of the Giants' offensive touches.
You know, people weren't believing in him, and I count me as one of those people who didn't think the Giants could cut it in fantasy.
I don't know
this
who
year.
thought the Giants would be as good as they are,
Certainly.
but
Not I.
he is the bell cowiest of the bell cows.
Yeah.
Half of his team's entire offense goes through him. It's amazing. He's on the field for over 80% of the snaps.
Yeah.
I talked about him last week in my column.
Which is funny.
And I said that I know he's high, but you have to try and trade for him right now.
The fact that you pointed those two players out because Najee is on the Steelers, and that's exactly how they would normally play their running backs as being out there for the whole time, etc.
I perhaps picked players that were too far apart.
No, that's okay.
That made them too obvious. No, I'm glad that you guessed them. I am. I'm not here to stump you.
I liked that one. I kind of knew right away. I was like, is it Christian McCaffrey? No, because it would have to be outside. So who's the other guy who's doing really well? It's Saquon, yeah.
Yeah. I think there's one or two other guys who were drafted later who are doing well still.
And you've got
And then, it could have been Jonathan Taylor drafted high and not playing well.
some newer players too.
And you got Breece Hall, but why would I bring up Breece Hall in this scenario, really?
Yeah, I tried to stray away from those players that aren't gonna play again.
That's a problem. It's an issue. It's
What's his trajectory
I'll
for
pour one out
2022?
for Breece Hall.
No, don't pour one out. That's not good.
That's my karma. So, Najee Harris did have an outstanding year last year.
Cheers to Saquon.
He hasn't done anything this year. His ceiling is ridiculously low. 11.9 points is the best performance he's had this year.
I will say in his defense that at least he is doing okay-ish, as opposed to not scoring any points,
He's the RB23,
which we've certainly seen a guy who's been in the top 10 before who ends up performing at an RB 30-40 level. But yeah, I don't want to defend him. It's really
I suppose. I mean, you drafted him in the middle of the first round. Not you, but
it's
the royal you.
It's really folks thinking that that somehow that Pittsburgh's going to get their offensive line together, or that Matt Canada is going to start calling smart play calls this year suddenly with a rookie quarterback. Not wise.
So what sucks for Harris? He doesn't have a single matchup for the rest of the season against a team that's giving up top 10 fantasy points to opposing running backs. So he has no easy matchups that will help him kind of get it going. So it's going to be really tough for him the rest of the year. It's going to be a rough second season for Harris. So I think that I enjoyed this.
Yeah,
very much.
Again, cheers, man. We have one more segment we'll get to in a moment, which is just which players should you ditch from the squad.
The J Cut list. I love it. It's one of my favorite recurring segments.
The J Cut list. Boo.
I especially love calling it the J Cut list.
Well, shout out to Sean Foss in the chat.
Did he get any of the other ones? I got disconnected from chat. Did you get the other ones too?
Disconnected. All right.
Look, I have a old bad laptop.
We have to recover.
If anyone
we're gonna start a GoFundMe for Jason's new
wants
laptop.
To contribute, yeah.
I mean, people have started GoFundMes for less valid reasons than this.
That's a good point.
Anyway, Sean has been guessing the players. He said, I know player A, I know player B, too now, while you were saying it. And then he said he had a teammate come back from a 6-game suspension this week. But he was talking about DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
Not Zach Ertz.
Well, when you were talking about Zach Ertz.
Yes. And so I told Sean we'll have to have him on the show, and maybe we could do like a little bit of a
We should just come up with a bunch of those to throw at Sean.
yeah, well, it'd be the best, I think, if it was have to do with rookies, and we tried to stump him with the rookies, but that might be a lesson in futility.
We just have to make sure not to mention their college.
and where did they go to college? He'd be like, was it on the East Coast?
That'll be the like final clue.
Yes.
We're not going to tell you his name. We're just going to tell you where he went to college.
So often when going,
Tell me who to cut, Dave.
Often when going over the cut list, I do get in great detail. We don't have a ton of time tonight, and I don't want to take up any of your valuable time more than I need to. So
Thank you, Dave.
What I'm going to do is just go over the players that are rostered in the most amount of leagues, and then briefly mention a couple other people that I think should no longer be on your squad. We can certainly discuss this, but in general, all of these teams' trajectory has been negative. Players' trajectories have been negative, and people are dropping them in a trending manner, and I agree with that particular trend. So let's go. Quarterback. I think this is pretty obvious. People have been holding on to Jameis Winston. He might not even be the starter there. They're so confused about what a quarterback even is that I'm not sure that you should start anyone that calls themselves a quarterback on the Saints, because
I need a drink for that one.
you have no I'm glad you like it.
Thank you.
Because you have no idea who's going to play quarterback, if they're a quarterback, why they're a quarterback, Don't play Saints quarterbacks. It's not healthy.
I don't even think they know what tight ends are.
Not healthy. Yeah, like Adam Troutman,
He's a tight end. Nope, he's going to run the ball.
who's long been a very hyped up dynasty tight end, is not even playing football.
No, give me some Juwan Johnson.
Yeah, whatever. As far as the Saints are concerned, I mean, you want Chris Olave and Alvin Kamara only if Andy Dalton is playing, and that's basically
That's fine.
that's who you want. Daniel Jones also been putting up really valiant performances, like he's some kind of prince in a 90s cartoon. But I don't think that that's going to carry over to subsequent games over the rest of the season. Daniel Jones is not someone that you want on your team. You don't want to start, etc. Jared Goff is a player that people were really getting behind because of his huge offensive performances that have happened a couple times so far this year. But the Detroit Lions are not a team that are going to be, one, consistent, or two, worth your while. Do not play the Lions players. They will ruin your fantasy chances. Do you have Amon-Ra St. Brown?
Well, he's out right now.
Is he?
Yeah. But I do.
Are you sure he's out right now?
I mean, it says out. But I have Josh Reynolds in most of those leagues.
Probably don't play him, though. I'm saying. You got to stop playing Lions players. I mean, we have a guillotine league. You know what something is that a lot of teams...
Yeah, I'm not in it anymore, in part because I started Lions.
How many Lions?
I had one. I had Amon-Ra.
Well, last week, somebody started 2 Lions. What'd they do? Got their head chopped off. Yep. Don't start Lions players. They're going to be disappointing.
We should start each podcast with you reading off the previous week's elimination
That's
post.
really only good for the people in the league, though.
I think other people would get a kick out of it.
Light a candle. We're about to start a... What do you call those? Eulogy. A eulogy. Maybe. I don't know. I do like them. I appreciate that. Running backs, Jeff Wilson and Melvin Gordon, Tyler Algier and Kenyon Drake. These are all players that you do not want to have on your roster. But the one that I think is a little bit more controversial, that you should not have in redraft leagues, in 10 and 12 team leagues, that you can immediately eliminate based on the performance of the team and the individual player, is A.J. Dillon. Drop him and pick up someone else, because people are just going to hang on to him for the rest of the fucking season. And it's just not right. It's not good. It's not healthy. You're going to have to see a therapist after you lose. And it's not okay, man. It's expensive. It's expensive. That's exactly right. Wide receivers, Rondale Moore and Garrett Wilson, both guys that have been, again, overhyped this season. This will be the week. This will be the week. Maybe chemistry with the new guy, but not Zach Wilson. If we're talking about Garrett Wilson, Rondale Moore, It's going to be his time to shine. His time to shine. Marquise Brown is out. DeAndre Hopkins is coming back. So Rondale Moore will be the guy, and he's not going to be the guy. We know who the guy is.
Rondale Moore was the guy for like 2 weeks a couple years ago.
It's not Rondale Moore. But Drake London is my big cut. Drake London,
Okay.
The Atlanta Falcons are not throwing the ball to Drake London. They're not throwing the ball to Kyle Pitts. Spoiler alert, Kyle Pitts, cut him. He is not helping your fantasy team. If you're on a dynasty league, of course you keep him, right? The quarterback of the Atlanta Falcons is not going to be Marcus Mariota next year.
Not at all.
And right now they just want to get big picks, right? Mm-hmm. So some kind of fantasy Viagra is what's needed in Atlanta. Big pick energy. That's right. That's right.
They're
Jess,
not
we appreciate that.
going to have that till next year.
Yeah, but look. So Atlanta is the last two guys, Drake London and Kyle Pitts, and I know that they are such high pedigree athletes. They're superstars maybe, but not right now. They're not getting the ball, and so stop trying to play them every week. You bench them, you drop them. You grab somebody else. There are so many players right now that you could grab as opposed to those guys. I would be in favor of picking up a guy like Paris Campbell on the Indianapolis Colts instead of Drake London. Paris Campbell's been getting a whole bunch of targets. Alec Pierce, who's the previous guy that Matt Ryan used to love, well, Matt Ryan's no more. You know, I see Paris Campbell coming back and being a Jacoby Myers kind of player, getting a whole bunch of PPR points and receptions. Anything's better than one reception for 9 yards. So, Jason, also tight ends to cut besides that. Dawson Knox, Mike Gesicki. They're not doing your team any favors.
He's been on your list earlier this year.
Yeah, but some people are still playing him because they're like, Tua came back.
Yeah.
But it's the concentration here is on Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. It's not about Mike Gesicki.
Yeah.
Even though he's maybe the most athletically gifted tight end or one of the most over the past couple years as he entered the draft. Yeah, a lot of good that does you when you're not scoring fantasy points.
Sure.
So, any
makes us not care.
questions, comments, vehemently disagreeable viewpoints?
I don't have any vehemently disagreeable viewpoints for tonight. I just want to say that I am the cola tasting champion.
Yes, you are. Yes.
Cheers.
And cheers to that.
Thanks, everyone.
Pepsi Man.
It's better than being the Coke Man.
Well, that depends on your perspective.